Yes, promise. Gonna be giving you my assessment of Canada efforts at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Obviously, Canada, as you know, Canada was in Group F with the likes of Belgium, Croatia, and Morocco. And going into the World Cup, after knowing what their group was going to be, and after looking at Canada performance in the World Cup qualifying in CONCACAF, one thing I was wondering if maybe they were overachieving. But after looking a little closer, the consistency of the team, the different players, the skill sets, I kind of come to that they could have done some damage in Group F. First game against Belgium, the way I saw it, and I wrote in the Caribbean Camera newspaper, which canvassed our community and the greater community in Toronto. I felt that Belgium had the World Cup experience, that talent and depth in most positions, but Canada could have neutralized their effectiveness with the youth and team speed. It was the only way I saw it. There was a feeling that Canada would have had to give in time of possession to Belgium. Now, Canada coach John Herdman did have a young team, surprised everyone, so beaming with confidence, knowing that it was the first qualification in the last 36 years. So there was momentum going in. This team under John Herdman was executing offensively and was playing well defensively. But Canada was on scoring drought at the World Cup, hadn't scored a goal. So it was whether or not the experience or inexperience would have been able to take them through and maybe spring another surprise to reach the round of 16 out of the group. So leaving on the 18th and getting there on the 19th, just in time for the opening with the host Qatar playing Ecuador at Albert Stadium. I always feel blessed as a person who played to be able to watch the game from close to the field of play. We had the opportunity of 2 out of the 4 games. So I went for the max. Was approved for 25 games. And I just gave you that roundup to let you know that in assessing going into the Canada-Belgium game, I already had my feet wet. Not my thirst quenched down, because I was still waiting to find out what was happening with Canada. Here we go with game 1. Canada was playing now at Ahmad bin Ali Stadium. Haven't been there. And when the media bus took us in there, the building was changing colors. So we in the media start taking out our phone, and it was different to the stadiums we went to. I've been to several games before that Canada game, but the Ben Ali Stadium was the first time I was going to be there, and the lineup, there was no discrepancies in the team he picked over the World Cup qualifying from my estimation. And I was sure everyone who followed Canada, he didn't disappoint with the first team he selected to play against Belgium at Ahmad bin Ali Stadium. So the starting lineup for Coach John Herdman was A1, flying colors. Canada was on scoring drought at the World Cup, hadn't scored a goal, pulled into Group F. This team under John Herdman was executing offensively and was playing well defensively. So it was whether or not the experience or inexperience would have been able to take them through and maybe spring another surprise to reach the round of 16 out of the group. The lineup, Lauren was on the bench, but we know if you cover the team that Lauren and David were in and out sometime for each other. Hollett, to me, one of the few offensive players in Canada and the Canadian team that has that special touch, that soft touch. Some people call it a deft touch. His control of the ball, his confidence level is good. And then he had experience. So that was a good choice by Coach Woodman to start Junior Hollett. So as the game started, Canada was awarded a penalty kick. VAR produced that. As the penalty was awarded, I kind of noticed Alphonso Davies had the ball sort of locked up. And to me, it was one who been around teams, around players, used to those situations. I just felt that the way he had the ball, it was a penalty kicker would know he's the designated one and calm himself before getting the ball. And most people have hindsight in that many felt that Davies wasn't the team penalty kicker. And I guess normally in the press conference, if John Hoodman said he was the kicker, I guess we'll have to go to the fact that he was the kicker. But watching the team over the period of time and watching those who have that command of the ball, I didn't have him as my kicker. But I'm just someone who's watching and someone who knows about penalty kicking as a bona fide penalty kicker over my entire career. Best game that Canada played. As a matter of fact, Canada played better than number 2 ranked in the world, Belgium, in that game. There was nothing to show at the end of the game. A tie would have even made Canada maybe want to even take the group based on the way the team played. But as it was there, they were now in last because Croatia and Morocco tied. So not really the way you want to start. So what you're hearing now is just reinforcement of what was written, what I wrote for the Caribbean newspaper going into the tournament. So this is not a Monday morning quarterbacking situation going on here. What I'm doing is just reinforcing my assessment and the way I looked at the games going in. And as I say in the preview to this thing, all the projections was on the money. On the Belgium game, based on the fact that Canada did play better than Belgium based on the team speed and beating them to the ball and the attack and everything else. I mean, that's the only avenue that they could better of Belgium, and the team did that. Doing the warm-ups from the second game, I started doing the warm-ups to see what the thinking would have been like and stuff. And since the Croatia game, you know, the lineup was more or less the same. It just brought in Lauren front with David. And I don't know if it might have been a surprise to some, but to me, as I said, this is not guesswork. You know, if you know what you know and what you experienced and what you saw, and you could retain, because some may not have known about Croatia, but I had my caution flag with the Croatia game from before I even left Toronto. So the Croatia game came by. I don't know what the game plan was going into the Croatia game, knowing what I knew, because when you look at the friendlies, I didn't think there was any friendly that Woodman got or arranged help Canada to play a team like Croatia. So the Croatia game, Coach Woodman, I mean, he did well when it comes to the starting lineups. No surprises, true to form. Just before I go into the game, I'll let you know that and stuff, and I wrote also going in, from Toronto that Croatia would have been the toughest game for Canada in Group F. Based on positional play, I mean, everyone would have been more experienced than Canada, but based on Croatia toughness, ability to withstand any pressure from any team, and also based on Croatia midfield with Modric and some of these guys there. Give Canada credit. Early in the game, in just over a minute and a half, just in front of me there, Buchanan picked up a ball and sent it over, sort of dad and all. In swinger ball, if you understand, dropping just in between the defense, cutting back into the defense was Davies run onto, and with the momentum, hit a powerful header that beat Croatia goalkeeper. Congratulations to Alphonso Davies. He's in the record books for scoring Canada first goal at a World Cup, a FIFA World Cup. It was a happy, joyous feeling. So everything looked good. And then all hell broke loose defensively for Canada. Modric and these guys took over the game. Croatia credit, they were true to form. For me, it was a true to form game based on the fact that Canada took the lead and were dominated with the rest of the game. So there was not even a momentum that carried over where Canada could have developed and make it a game. So again, Davies scored a goal. Congratulations to him. With that game, Canada was eliminated going into the third game against Morocco. Going into the Morocco games, I don't know if Coach Woodman took the challenge as having his team as a spoiler, but you still need to end the tournament for future references on a good note. And I think Canada did that. Going into the third game, noticed that Atiba was out. I think David was still in. And not knowing the status of the goalkeepers in terms of injury, but once they were all eligible, more times than not, at World Cups and tournaments, when you're eliminated and it's the third game, it's an opportunity to give players the experience, especially the younger players, the experience for future references. And I thought Woodman could have called the number of one of his two goalkeepers, backup goalkeepers, but he didn't. I guess maybe he was thinking about leadership because Atiba was out, and he put his vice captain in the net. But I didn't think that was any reason to not start because there are a lot of other guys on the team that even if they didn't captain the team before or whatever, that this is the time for somebody to step up. But anyways, the Morocco game was a kind of surprise, I guess. Not much for the players, but I would say for the Canadian supporters, because where I've noticed going into the third game that Argentina and Mexico and countries with this mega amount of supporters, Canada supporters were kind of eaten alive by the Morocco supporters. The two set of supporters were in red. So in terms of watching at the stands, you didn't know, who's who from a distance, but when the chanting started, you knew it was all Morocco in terms of support, crowd support. And Canada supporters just get their little 2 cents worth when Canada reduced Morocco score to 2-1. And then dominate the second half in terms of play. So Canada did end the tournament on a good note, having Morocco backed up, praying for the referee whistle. 6 or 8 minutes to go, the fans were hoping that the final whistle came because Canada was dominating and looking for an equalizer, which could have put them out of the round of 16. So all in all, if you have to look at Canada performance at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar 2022, I would give it a passing grade. I would give John Holdman the opportunity to take the team Not necessarily into 2026, regardless of what's being said, but at least into the Gold Cup to see how we rectify certain flaws I see or certain errors that I've seen made or is developing into the team. One, I've noticed that some of the profile players are holding on to the ball too long, either trying to increase their fan base, make themselves more viable for contracts, or but it's while that is okay personally on a team basis, I think it's hurting the team. And it's not just hurting the team based on team play. Most of the supporters, anybody who's knowledgeable in the game, would recognize that this is happening in the team. It is something that's being talked about. We could pretend as much if John Hoodman, based on the success he's had and stuff, don't, this is where we see, and again, I'm a strong supporter of John Hoodman. But if he doesn't fix these little things that coming in, and he allow it to foment or develop, that his security might be questioned. He has my vote. I don't see how, for those who figure he plateaued, how would you know if he plateaued if he's not given the opportunity? You had a coach or have a coach who has exceeded expectation by reaching the World Cup, not just reaching the World Cup after 36 years, but came first in the CONCACAF qualifiers, performed well against Belgium, end the tournament well against Morocco, went through a learning experience against Croatia, and he wasn't the only one that went through a learning experience against Croatia, because as we know, two teams in the group reached the final four. So I don't understand back home why some people are still saying that, he reached as far as he can go. I don't think so. I think you only know that if you give the coach the opportunity to see if he can't fix some of the problems that seem to be coming up on the team. Remember, there's work in progress. There's a young team, and you would have egos and stuff. And most national programs have egos anyways, for those, because the money is being made at the club life. So, when they come in the team, it's who's making what, who's making more than who, who's in form, who's not, who's unattached. So that's the whole thing about the national program. And this is where we know, you remember, Canada was aspiring before. Canada has reached that plateau and made a World Cup. They're in the next World Cup, so Hoodman has no qualifications, and everybody knows that. I've seen quotations where he's talking about 2026, but it's not. 2026 is a long way off. There's a lot can happen between now and then with the handling of the team, with the results of the team. So if I was him, I wouldn't get too comfortable, but he definitely has my vote. So that's my whole thing about the team, in terms of he needs to designate people for the free kicks and stuff, because I've seen also that there's I wouldn't say a struggle, but indecision, where they, again, profile players seem to be I'll put it this way, being close to the field, and I always feel blessed to get the opportunity to be close to the field as a photographer. You can see when, no matter what he says, these kicks, we know Yusaku, we know he's one of the specialty in the kicks. Davies takes them from the right side if he wants an in swinger. But what you're finding is some of these guys taking it from right side, left side, everybody is backing. So a perfect one would jump in front of everybody when they're backing. So it makes no sense. But, you know, there's a lot going on in the team, and the knowledgeable supporters could see it by the set play situations. The players who are very positive, and based on the positive, I would say, for instance, Johnson. Johnson is now one that, for me, started look like a starter, and he has evolved so much that he's even a positive influence on the team. With young players, when they reach that level of recognition, they get a little beside themselves because they come into the national team. They're playing with a club team and they're coming into our national team. And that's not where the bread and butter is. So they have to want to represent the country. And it's not really a thing that happening just in Canada. This is just the way the national program is. That's why most players, at the end of their career, they give up from the international circuit and stay with the club. You know, it's two different animals. So again, John Hoodman, congratulations in getting Canada to the World Cup, and, you know, showing that Canada could, of course, with no points, we already see where they can dominate games, and we take it from there. All right. So again, World Cup Qatar in the men's circuit that I went was like no other one. Yeah, I don't think you can get another one like that. Even the one that's coming here and for Canada and USA and Mexico, it won't be the same. You know, it would be more traveling, and you know, and when you come to these medias in these areas who feel they, you know, although they're doing basketball and hockey and everything else, they feel that they haven't sent. See, you know, I give Qatar and the Supreme Committee full credit for having one of the best World Cups, not just in the planning and the execution, but even was sort of rewarded with one of the most exciting finals. So hats off to Qatar, hats off to Canada, and for all the teams that participated in the World Cup 2022. All right, so over and out. So till you hear from me again later.